Our protagonist seems to be on his deathbed as we hear his last heartbeat. But then we see a rooster, so it seems like Truck-kun is at it again. Hirako wakes up in a lodge and says that he hasn't had the dream of his death in a while. He steps outside to be met by a beautiful girl with a horn, who apologizes since she hasn't finished all the chores yet. She also calls him master. Hirako says it's all good, and asks her to stop calling him master. We meet the second girl, who seems to be a terrible cook, as she doesn't know how to cook the slime. Hirako sweats as it seems like he's nervous that this particular harem girl is in the kitchen. He goes outside for a stretch, and it seems like we can't go a scene without meeting another one of his girls. You also can't have a vampire in your harem without having an angel. As the girls begin to have an unimportant conversation, Hirako thinks about the amazing, new life that he has been blessed with as a farmer. We go back in time to when he died in his first life, and had a meeting with God. God apologizes, saying that it was his fault that Hirako had to live a life of suffering and pain. Hirako is confused, but God doesn't go any further on the topic, and instead says that he'll grant him a healthy, strong body in the next world. God also tells Hirako that he will grant him any wish. After some thought, Hirako tells God that he wants to be a farmer. Since he is the god of creation, God backpedals and says that farming is not his jurisdiction, so he can't grant that wish. But he just calls up the god of farming and gets his approval. He also says that the farming god will give him the almighty farming tool, which is an overpowered tool that can complete any task related to farming. Next, Hirako wakes up in his new world. He gets pumped thinking about all the farming stuff he wants to do. After he finds out that the farming tool can become any tool you can imagine related to farming, Hirako spends all day building out a farm next to a big tree. To be perfectly honest, I think the producers spent way too long on this portion. It's nice to see him make progress on the farm, but they literally spend about an episode and a half going into every detail. The only interesting scene is when Hirako uses his 500 IQ brain to make a sewer system and decides to test it out. He realizes he is buck-ass naked in the middle of a forest taking a dump, so he makes a shed. The other noteworthy event is when Hirako tames a pair of dogs that end up pumping out a ton more. He also finds this spider and names him Zabuton. Zabuton is pretty damn cute. Hirako continues with his progress on the farm for the entire first half of the second episode, until finally, Zabuton warns him of an intruder, and we meet our first harem girl wrapped in spider plot. Great job, Zabuton. Lou calls out my name and asks Hirako for help. He obviously helps a girl in need, but Lou is a vampire, so she juices up and grows a nice, healthy pair of watermelons. She thanks him for the meal, but the dogs have Hirako's back as they spank her for being a bad girl, and she turns back into a little girl. She tells Hirako that she can't maintain her watermelons when she loses her strength, and needs to suck on blood to recover. So Hirako helps her out, putting his healthy, strong body to good use. She says she has never sucked on blood as tasty as Hiraku's, noting that the blood is full of vitality. He asks her why her character development is smaller, and she says his life will be in danger if she takes too much blood. He tells her to just go for it. Her character development is fully developed, so Hirako takes her back to his crib. Hirako shows her around, and the two have a great day together, frolicking in his field of vegetables. He takes her into his cabin and warms up a nice fire. Lou tells him that his place is amazing. She tells him that she's a researcher, and that she ran away from some nobles who wanted to steal her research. She came to this forest, where she planned on continuing her research, when she met Hirako. She tells him that she is glad that she met him, telling him that she had an amazing day with him. Hirako thinks about what she just said, and begins to feel a swell of emotions, realizing how lonely he has been since he got here. She asks him if she can visit him again, but he immediately interjects and asks her to live with him here. She doesn't mind staying for a bit, but Hirako immediately interjects again, correcting what he said, and begs her to live here forever. She says this is a bit too sudden for her. He tells her he doesn't want to lose this chance. She tells him that there are people after her. He tells her he doesn't care. She tells him she's a vampire. He says it's not a problem. He admits that he's not good with people, but that he doesn't know how much longer he can live here alone. Her face is bright red, and she says it's all too sudden, but she tells him that she will. She's still taken aback, telling him that the proposal is too soon. He gets confused, saying that he just asked her to live here. Lou gets angry, telling him that he added the word forever at the end of it. He says she is right, realizing that forever and proposal are synonymous here, so he begs her again. She blushes even more and tells him to stop, saying that she already said yes. Hirako can't hold back his excitement. He attacks her, and we stare at this big tree while the plot develops.
This is the guy in the house doing all the fucking. Am I right? You know I'm right. This guy fucks.
Thank you.
The next morning, Lou greets her husband, and Hiraku asks why she is small again. Lou says that it's for her own protection, saying that it's the daytime, and that he won't get turned on without her character development. He says he'll restrain himself. The two live happily together for a while without any interruptions, until one day, they hear a cry in the forest. The dogs attack another girl, and this time, an angel is wrapped in spider plot. She asks for help, and Hiraku comes to the rescue. She heals her wounds, and unfortunately, she holds her dress down while doing so. Lou tries to sneak away, but Tia shouts to stop resisting and come back quietly. The three head back to the guest area, and Lou introduces her husband. Tia is surprised that they are a couple, while Lou turns into a tomato. Tia introduces herself as an angel, and tells Hiraku that Lou has a bounty on her head for beating up a bunch of nobles. Lou admits that she went a little too far, and Tia is surprised that she admitted it so quickly. Tia says that Lou has changed, saying that she was never the type to admit her weaknesses. Lou changes the topic, asking Tia to live here with them. She tells her that she'll love living here too. She also tells Tia that she needs help, and that she can't handle Hiraku's cucumber by herself.
This guy fucks.
Tia is taken aback, but agrees to do so. You may be wondering why she agreed so quickly, but she just did, without any explanation. Fascinating how the producers and writers spend close to 30 minutes showing Hiraku building a farm, but it takes 3 minutes to introduce a girl and get her to fall in love with our MC. But I guess that's why we have anime recaps, am I right? The three live happily together, when Tia decides that they need some more help handling Hiraku's cucumber, so she leaves for a few days, and comes back with a bunch of hot elves. Leah says that they are all sisters, and that Tia suggested that they live at the farm. Tia explains that their village and people were wiped out after being dragged into a war with humans. They've been looking for a place to settle down, where they can reproduce and repopulate their race. Lou chimes in, saying that she thinks it's a good idea to get some help handling Hiraku's cucumber as she asks the elves if they still have their youth. Tia and Lou make puppy faces, but it's really unnecessary since no man would ever say no in this situation. Lou introduces Zabuton, and the girls faint. Lou introduces the dogs, and they faint again. They build a big house and settle down quickly. Hiraku is impressed that a bunch of hot girls know how to do useful things, like building a house better than he can, and making this metal walk. Leah responds saying that they've lived for over 200 years as nomads, so they needed to learn things like that. She says that they learned all sorts of things, but the only 2 things they couldn't do was make a settlement, and make some babies. Hiraku gives a thumbs up, telling them that they can check one of those off the list. The girls giggle, and smile at Hiraku, knowing that they'll check off the second on their list soon.
This guy.
Later, Hiraku decides to work on the farm a bit more, but Zabuton interrupts. He wants to show the big bee he caught in his spider plot. Hiraku asks if he's going to eat it. He asks if he's going to keep it as a pet. Hiraku builds a shed for the bee's nest. Tia stops by, and then runs away. Hiraku then continues to work on the farm, and this time, it's not as boring as before, now that he has a bunch of girls helping him out. Let's watch them help out a little more. He uses his 500 IQ brain to build a waterway. After, Hiraku watches as the girls use their magic to clean themselves. He realizes using magic like that doesn't help with their character development, so he decides to build a bath. When he finishes it, the girls ask Hiraku to demonstrate how to use the bath because it's apparently a complicated process, or maybe they just wanted to see Hiraku's character development. Most definitely the latter, as they take off their clothes and join him. Tia and Lou want in on the party.
You're a lucky man.
Later, more elf girls join the farm because why the hell not? Not surprisingly, they are also here to settle down and reproduce. Leah cheers them on, as they all get excited to make some babies. Finally, the house is completed, which excites Hiraku and the girls. The gang tours the house, and Hiraku also builds statues of his dogs by the front door. Later, Hiraku decides to cook curry for the girls, which is a new dish to this world. Leah arrives to assist Hiraku with the cooking. At first, everyone looks nervous, but as they take a bite, everyone cheers with the delightful taste. Some days later, everyone starts to get ready as winter is coming, so Hiraku brings Zabuton a basket full of potatoes to eat before going into hibernation, and in return, Zabuton hands Hiraku a bundle of blankets for the winter. Meanwhile, Ru and Tia are preserving some food. Hiraku crafts a snowbox to preserve vegetables, which he plans to test out later. As winter arrives, everyone starts to spend their time indoors, so to kill time, Hiraku creates board games, such as chess and reversi. As he tells everyone about the rules, Ru and Tia challenge each other in a game of reversi. Realizing that she's in a losing position, Ru eventually throws the board, but Tia uses her magic and rewinds the board to its original position. Time passes so fast, and before they knew it, spring arrives. As soon as they step outside, a wyvern appears with hostile intent. The wyvern attacks Hiraku's group, breathing fire, but Ru and Tia use magic to defend themselves. The fire spreads into the crops, but the elves are quick to put it away. Hiraku wonders what to do and how to stop the wyvern. He summons the almighty tool, which to his surprise turns into a spear. He throws it at the wyvern, who creates a 3-layer barrier, but the spear pierces it and injures its wing. He then throws it again, piercing its chest and killing it. Hiraku wonders if it's normal to encounter a wyvern, but Ru explains they are rare creatures. Hiraku then wonders if someone could have sent it, but Tia explains that even if that was the case, the person won't have just sent it alone since it's a valuable creature. He then wonders if they can eat it, and the girls explain the meat is said to be a delicacy. Hiraku makes 3 dishes with the wyvern meat, and all the girls end up enjoying it. At the demonic kingdom of Galgardo, Demon Lord's castle, the great generals receive report that a wyvern was felled. Randon can't believe it, as when one gets close to their territory, they need to mobilize their entire military force. Beazle states the wyvern was attacked from the ground and killed in 2 hits. Randon fears that they won't be able to fight someone that powerful. Beazle states they are the 4 generals, they need to handle the situation before fear spreads. At Gatekeeper Dragons, Drime's lair, Dorame, a blue dragon, asks Gucci if he saw the fight, and Gucci confirms it. Dorame wonders what would happen if he takes the spear attack, and Gucci guesses it will likely pierce cleanly through him. Dorame wonders what to do, and Gucci notes it would be foolish to attack Hiraku's settlement. Back at the farm, Hiraku enjoyed the wyvern meat, but felt something is missing and decides to finally make some alcohol. He guesses that wine exists in this world and decides to make it from grapes. The girls are excited and they harvest the grapes quickly. Hiraku then creates a place where he places the grapes and asks the girls to stomp them. The girls feel a bit weird at first, but guess it would be easier if they have some sort of rhythm. The elves then suggest a song from their village and start singing. They fill several barrels, and Hiraku decides to let the yeast on the skin of the grapes to ferment it for them. Hiraku wonders if they made too much, but hearing that the girls will drink it in no time, he wonders if he made too little.
Someone ass getting laid tonight.
Meanwhile, the god observes Hiraku and wonders if this is enough for him to forgive him for giving a terrible life in his first life, but the goddess of agriculture tells him it isn't, as he punished an innocent soul and while trying to save it, ended up sending him to the forest of death. The goddess can't believe that he also gave him a replica of the holy lance, Grime. God explains that he is only using it as a farming tool and he got permission. However, the goddess states he didn't tell her he was giving it to a human, which should have drained all of their life force and killed him instantly. God states he is fine as he gave him a super healthy body. The goddess states he was just being careless. She is also angry that in the god statues that Hiraku made, she appears like an old man. God tries to say it's not his fault, but she doesn't want to listen and punishes God to sit for 300 years. Back at the farm, Zabuton signals Hiraku and he sees that the dogs and spiders had caught another girl. Ruse sees it's her younger sister Flora. As they take her to the village, Flora explains that she heard the angel was after her and she followed her to the forest. Hiraku suggests that she stays there for a while so that she can rest. Flora accepts, but feels strange that Hiraku is Rue's husband. Rue explains that he is the master of the Inferno Wolves and also took down a wyvern. Hearing that, Flora quickly apologizes. Hiraku realizes that Kuro isn't a dog but a wolf and wonders about the Inferno part. Koro then breathes fire and Hiraku is impressed. Ru and Tia are surprised he didn't know as they are well-known beasts. Hiraku prepares some food for Flora, who ends up enjoying it. He shares that he really wants to make some miso and soy sauce, and as Flora doesn't know what those are, he explains that they are made from fermented soybeans. As Flora wonders what is fermented, he explains how cheese and wine are made. Hearing about the microorganisms, Flora is excited for a new subject she could research. After a few days, Flora leaves, but in a month, she returns to live there and has brought her maids as well, and speaks on the behalf of all the maids and tell Hiraku that he can use them as he wants. Hiraku sees that Flora has brought 2 cows as well and gets excited that they can make butter and cheese now. Tia realizes that the vampires, elves, wolves and spiders are all large groups now, but she is alone. She tells Hiraku that she will leave for a while and flies away. Tia returns soon and has brought her underlings. 3 angels Gran Maria, Cudel, and Caron. Some lizard men, represented by Daga and a chicken. With the arrival of the maids, who are a race of ogres, all of the chores start to get done a lot faster. Hiraku notices that they don't cook any complicated dishes and decides to teach them all the cooking methods he knows. That ends up interesting the ogres, who then start cooking. The 3 angels that Tia brought are instructed by Tia to patrol the forest. Hiraku wondered why they appeared with armors, but realizes that Tia planned to have them as a security after the appearance of the wyvern. The lizard men are in charge of all the labor that requires strength outdoors, and thanks to them, their construction work is moving faster than before. Hiraku makes Daga wear a scarf around his arm, as he isn't able to tell them apart. Hiraku realizes that their numbers had increased a lot. Leah then comes and tells him that she brought all the elves she found in the forest. Hiraku then sees another large group of elves, but notices that they are all female. He wonders about the male elves and Leah explains that the men didn't survive. However, they intend to make many men in the future. Hiraku is happy for them, but decides not to ask how they intend to do that. Several days later, Hiraku calls all the representatives to talk with them and asks them on how to name the village. Ru suggests they name it after Hiraku, but Hiraku doesn't like the sound of it, and suggests they name it after the forest, but hearing the forest is called Forest of Death, Hiraku is against it. Zabuton then points at the door and as Hiraku opens it, he sees the Great Tree and decides to name it the Great Tree Village, Taiju Village. That evening, he announces the village name to everyone and explains they will be having a party to celebrate it. Everyone start calling Hiraku their mayor. Hiraku states they need to decide that later together, but the girls tell him that everyone is already calling him that. The village then celebrates it by drinking the first batch of wine they made. One day, a messenger from the demonic kingdom arrives. Beezle requests to speak with the one in charge of the village and Hiraku steps out. Beezle gives a gift to Hiraku and explains that the demon lord wants to discuss the status of the settlement. Hiraku recalls that the land was under the demon lord protection and wonders if they will want him to pay taxes or will kick him out. Hiraku tells Beezle that if the demon lord lets them live here, they will give part of their harvest as a tax, and suggests 10%. Hiraku wonders if it's too low, but Beezle is ready to accept. Hiraku then explains they can pick up the tax each year before the winter starts. As Beezle agrees, the two sides sign a contract. Hiraku's village will be paying 10% of what they grow in their fields, however that doesn't include milk, eggs, honey or alcohol they produce. If they are interested in the products they produce, then they can trade. Hiraku felt a bit too aggressive with the negotiations, so he gives them a gift as a good gesture. After Beezle leaves, the girls tell Hiraku that he did a good job, telling him that the tax is usually 50% to 60%. It's also very good that they have the demon lord's protection moving forward. Ru is also excited about the present Beezle gave them, an almighty medicine that works on any injury. Beezle reports to the other 4 generals, which surprises them that the village is submitting to them even though they can defeat a wyvern. Randon wonders if they have an ulterior motive and Beezle shares the same fear, and explains that he had no choice but to accept their conditions as the vampire princess and the angel of annihilation were there. They also had an army of high elves and a pack of inferno wolves, along with a trio of killer angels. Beezle had to accept their conditions, otherwise they would have become an enemy to the demonic kingdom. Gratz sees that they also got a gift from them and decides to open it, in case it's something dangerous. He sees its fruits like apples, but with nicer shape and color. Beezle notices that the cloth in which the apples were is made by a great demon spider. Gratz is surprised to hear that as a great demon spider fought one of the previous demon lords to a standstill. Doraim, the true ruler of the dragons, also visits the village. Gucci gives them a present and explains that Doraem's lair is located to the south of here. While the distance is big, they are kinda like neighbors and came to greet them. Hiraku is surprised that Doraem keeps bowing down, and explains that he would invite them inside, but Doraem is too large. Gucci then asks Doraem to change to a smaller form and Doraem takes a human form. After eating and drinking, Doraem ends up loving the alcohol and wants to stay and live there, but Gucci tells him he needs to protect his domain and that he will be a nuisance to the people in the village if he stays for too long. After the two visit, Hirako starts thinking of a better way to greet the visitors and decides to build a guest house. He proposes a house fit for 4 people, but the girls suggest it should be large as usually those who come will come in large groups and the house needs to be fit for 30 people. They start working on the guest house. Hirako then starts thinking on a more proper way to welcome the guest. At the moment, the angels would find the guest, capture them and lead them to the village entrance. On top of that, when Zabuton sounds the alarm, everyone grabs their weapons and get ready for a battle. Hirako comes up with a new signal for visitors and gives a bell to Zabuton to ring. Hirako then wanted that he, Ru and Tia to greet the guests, but the idea is rejected and he is forced to add some elves, Oni maids and lizard men. Soon, Garf and few beastmen from the Howling Village arrive as guests and explain they want to establish a relationship with Hirako's village. Ru decides to handle it and asks if that's all of them. As Garf confirms, Ru explains that they will consider anyone else then an enemy. The Inferno Wolves then bring some more men from Garf's group and he apologizes. She tells them to behave and then invites them in the village. After they get them into the guest house, they lock them in. Tia explains that every guest they had has brought some presents. She still isn't sure if they are enemies, but they aren't following the normal visitor procedures, so they won't be getting the normal visitor treatment. The girls are against giving fancy food or alcohol to the guests, but Hirako manages to convince them to give them some alcohol. While the beastmen eat and drink, Hirako asks them how they learned about his village. Garf explains they heard from the Demon Lord's men. In the Howling Village, they are making their living by hunting or mining, and they have been trading with other human villages. However, as there has been some trouble at the human villages, the trading with them became unstable, so they decided to look for someone new to trade. Tia asks them why some of them remained hidden and one of them explains that if something were to happen to the others, they would return and report back to their village. The next day, Garf explains that they want to trade and have an open market. However, as it's hard for them to come to this village with the goods, he would like if Hirako can come to their village, guessing he can navigate easily in the forest. Hirako then guesses he can use the wolves to pull a cart with goods and can visit their village. For their first trade, Garf had brought items made from the ores they mined, things like silverware, glassworks, metalworks, and would like food for them. Seeing them, Hirako agrees and brings the food they have for trade. When leaving, Garf reveals that he didn't know people bring gifts when they visit as their village doesn't have such custom, but promises to bring one next time. However, he explains that they are poor and it won't be anything fancy. Hirako explains that the value doesn't matter, but that the thought behind is what's more important. Some time passes and Hirako decides it's time they trade with the Howling Village. However, the girls don't allow him to leave and agree that Tia will go with some lizard men. Normally it would take them 10 days to get to the village, however, Doraem agrees to take them faster in exchange for a barrel of wine. After his first visit, Doraem started regularly visiting the village and always brings treasures or weapons as gifts, so no one complains about him. Few days later, Tia returns with a sad Doraem. She explains that when the beastmen saw them with the dragon they were shocked and initially also refused to take anything they were given. However, they gave some free samples like Hirako suggested and the beastmen loved the goods and they ended up trading everything. Doraem then complains that they even traded the barrel of wine that was supposed to be his. Hirako then tells him he can drink more tonight during dinner and Doraem gets happy again. Tia reveals that the mayor of Howling Village asked if some people from his village can come and live here. Hirako states they need more people for work, so he would be happy to take them. Tia then reveals that there are 20 people who want to come and they are all young women. Hirako is a bit disappointed as the village is mainly consisting of females and fears the village may not have a future. He accepts, but requests that they send 2 young men as well. The group of female beastmen arrive and Senna introduces herself. She is grateful that he is accepting them and explains that they are prepared to be used however he sees fit, but asks him to not abandon them. Hirako tells them to take their time and get used to the place, after that they can make a request of what kind of house they want. He also tells them to not worry that they will be kicked out. Hirako wonders about the men he asked for and Senna reveals they brought 3 young men as he asked. Hirako then sees that they are 3 young boys. Hirako is shocked, but then realizes that in 5 or 10 years they may help with the village future. Initially, the beastmen believed they will be treated horrible, however as that isn't the case, they get used to the life in the village quickly. Hiraku notices that Senna uses magic and guesses that everyone can use it except him. She tries to comfort him and explain that the beastmen kids still can't use magic and they can learn together, but Hiraku knows that one day they will easily surpass him. Hiraku harvests some apples, but hears some noise nearby the village and the ground shakes. Gran Maria quickly reports that a grappling bear and a bloody viper are fighting in the northern area of the forest. Hiraku wonders if they can eat the bear meat and asks Gran Maria to take him to see the monsters. When they reach them, Gran Maria suggests they go back and think of a plan, however, Hiraku requests that she drops him down. As she leaves him, he attacks the monster and kills them with a single blow. The killer angels then look at the defeated monsters and state how impressive is Hiraku as they couldn't take down such monster with one attack. After that, Hiraku decides to cook the bear with some wine and makes wine-braised grappler bear dish, but finds it quite gamey. The girls are shocked that he used their precious wine, but he explains that cooking with wine is normal. He fries the viper and ends up enjoying it more as it tastes like fried chicken. He goes to Flora and asks her if she has something like an antibacterial agent. He explains that he needs something that can kill microorganisms and will prevent stomach aches or illness. Flora then offers him a potion, explaining that it will blow up everything. Hiraku asks for something weaker and she gives him another potion. Hiraku also wonders how the miso production is coming along and Flora explains that she has no progress. She did what he told her, but she didn't notice any fermentation and used a potion that blew up her house 3 times already. Hiraku suggests that they can try again. The next day, Hiraku gathers some chicken eggs. He then adds salt and vinegar. After mixing it, he adds some oil and gets mayonnaise, which will go perfect with the fried viper. Hiraku then proceeds with the miso, and start by simmering the soybeans he and Flora soaked in water. Next, they grind them and he uses the almighty tool to add koji mold. They form balls and pack it into barrels and leave for a few months. Ru then calls Hiraku, informing him they have visitors. The visitors are a few elder dwarfs led by Donovan, who heard that they have high-quality alcohol and wish they share some with them. The girls explain that they can't give it for free. Donovan states they don't have money, but have technology. They have spent their lives studying alcohol production, and seeing the fine crops they have, they can help them turn them into fine alcohol. Hearing that, the girls quickly agree. The dwarfs then use distillation and make corn whiskey. Eventually Donovan and his men remained in the village and worked as the village brewers. Later, the village has a welcoming celebration for the beastmen and dwarfs. Hiraku realizes that finally some men join and asks Donovan if some girl catches his eye. Donovan then explains that the girls are too young for him and if they can't grow a beard, they are not his type. One day, Hiraku sees a dragon approaching. As it doesn't look peaceful, he prepares for a fight. Doraine then shows up and stops the dragon. As the 2 dragons stare at each other, a third appears, which looks even scarier. Hiraku then throws his spear, but the dragon manages to dodge in the last moment. Gucci then stops Hiraku, explaining that they are not enemies and are not fighting. As the dragons land and transform into human forms, Gucci explains that the 2 other are Doraine's wife, Grafaloon, and daughter, Lastismoon. As Doraine constantly sneaks out to come to the village, his wife and daughter thought he may be sleeping with other dragon girls, as he always takes something from the treasury and returns in the morning. Hiraku had built Doraine a house there, so that he doesn't need to go home drunk, but guesses that was a bad idea now. Doraine explains that he has no courage for an affair and the women agree on that. Hiraku apologizes for earlier, but Doraine makes his family apologize as well. Lastismoon then apologizes for almost burning the village down, and Grafaloon apologizes for the thought of obliterating the man who pointed a spear at his daughter. Hiraku is glad that things are sorted out and leaves. Doraine then asks his wife and daughter if they understand what he is doing and Grafaloon confirms, noting that although they have small numbers, the village has the power to challenge dragons, which is something she didn't expect to see ever. Lastismoon also notes that Grafaloon couldn't defend against that attack and had to avoid it. Grafaloon explains that was mainly thanks to the spider who pulled her out and is an old friend of hers. Grafaloon then tells Lastismoon to live in this village and make sure that the power of the village is never turned against them. Hiraku agrees with Lastismoon living there and she quickly starts helping them with the work. However, as she is a dragon and is too strong, she would often break anything she touches. Hiraku wonders what to do with her as Doraine asked him to give her some work. He then notices that the wolves are scared and Tia states it's not just the wolves, but the chickens and cows as well. She explains that the dragons aren't just powerful, but they have wisdom and knowledge too. Hiraku then gets an idea and sends Lastisman to handle the diplomatic relations with Beezle, who is shocked to see a dragon. She wonders what he wants and Beezle barely explains that he wants more fruits like the ones they got last time. Lastisman states that they are low on oranges, but they have strawberries. Scared, Beezle decides to take 10 boxes. She also suggests some apples, pears, persimmons and watermelons, and Beezle takes them too. Beezle reports back that they have a dragon now. While it may be risky, they decide to send a spy. Beezle calls his daughter, Florem, and explains that he wants her to investigate the village's military might. Florem goes to the village and is welcomed by Lastisman, who takes her around. However, while showing her around, Lastisman is informed they spotted a messenger from Howling Village and she decides to leave Florem to look around by herself. Florem then goes around and sees all the races. Normally she would expect Lastisman to command them all, but she heard that there is someone above her who rules everyone. She ends up seeing Hiraku, but as he is just a human, she ignores him. After meeting up with Lastisman again, she explains that Hiraku is the mayor. Florem can't believe a human is commanding them all, but Lastisman explains that he is strong enough to defeat her mother. Florem then starts to worry as not only she didn't say hello, she was quite rude to him. Hiraku heard that Florem is Beezle's daughter and that she will be staying for a while. He sees that she is getting along with Lastisman, but the moment he shows up, Florem starts acting quite stiff and awkward. The slimes in Taiju village had started to multiply and now they have multiple colors. No one really noticed it until a purple slime drank a barrel of alcohol, which angered the girls. They decided to hold a trial and found it guilty. However, Florem explains it's a slime and it won't reflect on its action no matter what punishment they put him through. The girls realize it and they decide to leave it since it's just one slime. When autumn comes, Hiraku and the rest are enjoying a hot pot and Hiraku notes that if they have some seafood, the hot pot will taste even better. The girls then wonder what he means by seafood and Hiraku says stuff like cod, crabs or monkfish, along with some kombu seaweed. Rue tells Flora to start researching those things. Tia is surprised that you can eat crabs as they are hard. Florem explains that there is a harbor city called Shashato within the demonic kingdom, and they can reach it by going south from this village. Lastisman decides to fly to it and Florem decides to go with her as she knows a merchant there. Lastisman and Florem return 3 days later with Michael Goraun, a merchant from the city of Shashato. After he introduces himself to Hiraku, he shows him the fish he brought and explains that the kombu he requested is usually thrown away by their fishermen. However, he told his men to collect them. Michael explains that his visit has 3 goals: to properly greet Hiraku and thank him for requesting to do business with them, to suggest more opportunities for them to trade goods and do business, and third, to become the official government purveyor for the village. The girls explain that he means to be the one that handles all trade between the village and the outside world. He shows them a list of products his company trades and they go to further discuss the proposal. In the evening, before leaving, Michael wants them to discuss the alcohol next time. Scared, Michael then backs off the subject and leaves. Lastisman flies him back to Shashato. Michael looks back at the village and just thinking about it, he gets scared. 3 days earlier, one of Michael's men tells him that there is a visitor who wants to speak with him. As he is quite busy, Michael wonders why they don't handle it, but the man explains that they requested him by name and brought goods from their farm, and he doesn't know what to do. Michael is surprised they brought goods as that isn't their rule and suggests they refer them to somewhere else. However, in that moment, his intuition tells him to not ignore this and he decides to meet them. Meeting with them, Michael is surprised to see Florem from the Chrome family and is glad that he didn't send her away as he may have lost his head. He wonders who is the other girl and hearing she is Lastisman, he is shocked that she is that crazy dragon. The girls then bring him the goods and explain that they want him to buy them. As he checks the goods, he sees apples and realizes it's the fruit that have entered the demonic kingdom and everyone is talking about them. Each one of them, he can sell for several silver coins. He then sees the other fruits and is surprised how many they have brought him. He was believing this to be quite risky, but realizing he will be making lots of money, he gets quite happy as it outweighs the risk and states he will find them what they want. He tells his man to bring him the best products from the market and wish to go with the girls on their way back. The girls then explain they are heading towards Taiju village in the forest of death. Hearing that, Michael starts to feel unease. He gets scared by everyone in Taiju village, except Hiraku. After the deal, he feels he will be rich, but is not sure his body will be able to handle it. Later, Hiraku makes hot pot with seafood and everyone loves it. Another dragon appears in the village. Hiraku wonders if it's related to Doraemon, but the dragon attacks and mocks Hiraku. Hiraku then gets serious and throws his spear at it, making it look like he missed. but he then throws another and takes down the dragon. The dragon turns into a young girl and states that she surrenders. Doraemon then shows up and explains that she is Hakorin, his older sister. Hakorin states it's his fault as he said he was giving Lastisman as a bride and wants to marry her to the mayor one day. Doraemon tries to deny it, stating he may have said it while he was drunk. Hakorin came to see what kind of man the mayor is and also heard he is quite strong, so she came to check him. Doraemon states it's not just that and she is mostly here because she is angry. Hakorin then confirms, stating that Lastisman is 900 years younger than her, yet she will be marrying before her. Hiraku is fine that she came to test him, but as she made a mess, he makes her clean it. After they have dinner, Hakorin wants them to play mahjong, but wish that they bet on something. Doraemon wonders what Hiraku can bet, but Hiraku explains that he can't bet anything, so he can think only of some punishment, like strip mahjong. Hakorin, Doraemon and Lastisman then all agree to play as they are all quite competitive and don't like losing. They start playing, but quickly, Hiraku finds himself in his last piece of clothing. He then feels he has a chance, but ends up losing and is forced to take off his pants. At the Demon Lord's base, Bizzle reveals that Hakorin has also been seen in Hiraka's village. Glatz then worries even more that they have enough power to overtake the kingdom. The Demon Lord Gargard shares that his daughter has been in a bad mood lately and haven't spoken to him the whole morning. Glatz then ignores the Demon Lord and states they need to gather funds and prepare their military force, but see that Randon has ran away again. Hakorin decides to stay in the village and is quite skilled at any job she takes, although she complains about anything she is asked to do. In the end, she becomes the teacher for the kids, teaching them reading, writing, and math. One day, Lamia girls led by Junia show up, bringing gifts and asking Hiraku to spare their lives. As Hiraku doesn't know what they mean, the Lamia girls explain that the younger wolves and spiders decided to clear a dungeon they found in the forest, which forced the Lamia to flee their homes. Hiraku decides to trade the gems they mined and gives them some of their crops, and the Lamia then went back to their original homes. Hiraku would be happy if they keep trading and so they agree. However, Hiraku asks them that when they come, if they can wear some clothes as they are topless. The Lamia then started Lamia delivery service and started carrying the traded goods for the village. Some girls convinced the demonic kingdom's princess, Yuri, that Hiraku's village is planning something foul and intends to use Frorum as a hostage. Yuri then decides to defeat the village and save Frorum. Bizzle visits Frorum and informs her that the Princess Yuri intends to start a military campaign. Rosalind, Klakas and Roage are the ones that convinced her to do so. Frorum finds the girls' trio to be quite stupid and wonders why they would attack the village considering she sent them reports on how powerful they are. Bizzle explains that the reports were so ridiculous that they started to think they are unrealistic. Bizzle believes that if Frorum tries to stop them, they will think that she is a traitor. However, he asks her to think of something to stop them. As the attack is tomorrow, Frorum guesses they just need to show the power of the village without mobilizing the village. They pay the Lamia girls, led by Junia, 10 boxes of apples and 3 Lamia face the 300 men that were heading towards the village and easily make them surrender. As a result, Rosalind, Klakas and Roage are taken to the village and Frorum explains that they want to join the village and work for it like their life depends on it. They will be working for Frorum, but if they do something that harm the village, Hiraku can just dispose of them. Hiraku then wonders about the fourth girl, who sits in a throne and Frorum explains that she is here just to observe for a while. As Hiraku leaves, Frorum tells the girls that if they do some honest work, their transgression will be forgotten. Additionally, they should hide their identities and the Princess Yuri will be treated just like a normal person. Frorum then shows them around the village. However, being nobles, the trio of girls believe that they shouldn't be leaving in the middle of nowhere and decide to escape. However, as they try, they find inferno wolves and spiders and change their mind. Fearing to be disposed, the trio then start working and help with Frorum's work and get to be known as the Town Hall Girls. Seeing how nice and peaceful is the village, Yuri regrets that she wanted to bring war to it. Frorum wonders why the Demon Lord didn't stop her, and Yuri explains that she heard Frorum was a hostage and was worried about her. As the two are childhood friends, they agree that Frorum will be telling her everything and treat Yuri like a normal person. Later, Yuri helps out with the farm work as well, and even forces the trio of girls to help her too. It comes time for Yuri and the girls to leave. However, the trio decides to stay, stating they still haven't repaid everyone's kindness, that there is still work to do and more things to learn about the village. However, in reality they ended up enjoying the baths, the food, and the lack of political stress in the village. After Yuri returns home, the Demon Lord Gargard complains to Bizzle that she seems more dignified and is always busy with something. Bizzle states that it looks like Yuri is starting to get interested in politics and diplomacy, and that daughters grow into adult before the parents even realize it. Hearing adult, Gargard assumes that she must have met a man and wishes to tear him apart. Bizzle warns him that this attitude will make her hate him one day, which calms Gargard right away. Hiraka's village start their pre-winter crop harvest, but they end up having more food than anticipated and don't even know where to store it. Lastisman suggests they send some to her father and Hiraku agrees. Hakoran then suggests that they send to her parents too. She explains that her father lives in the north, while her mother in the south. Tia then realizes she means the Emperor Dragon Dusu and the Hurricane Dragon Rainirin. Lastisman then heads to her father dropping off some crops and then to Shishato City to drop off some crops there too. Michael Goround asked Lastisman to exterminate a monster that was attacking the trade vessels and Lastisman gladly accepted and defeated the monster. Meanwhile, Hakoran headed north and on her way back, she found some people who wanted to move to the village. Their leader is Ya. Hiraku assumes they are dark elves, but Ya explains they are called mountain elves. Ya explains that they were living in the mountains, but lately have been struggling on finding food. As he accepts them in the village, Ya gets happy and explains that they are excellent hunters and will catch food for themselves. They attempt to capture something, but the monsters are too strong for them. Hiraku tells her to not worry about it. Ya then sees that he is doing something and Hiraku explains that he is trying to make some pottery, but he fails and states he would indeed need clay. Ya then volunteers to find it for him, explaining that she understands Earth and what lies in it and the monsters won't be a problem as she can easily escape them. Ya manages to find clay and make some pottery, which makes Hiraku happy. Later, Hiraku gets informed that they found another dungeon and as the girls want, they send a survey team to investigate it. Meanwhile, Hiraku finally finishes the male bath and uses it. Outside, Frorum captures the trio of girls and forces them to tell the truth. They explained that they were hoping to wash Hiraka's back for him and use the chance to get close to him. Frorum states the three of them are the lowest ranking members and they can't just sneak up their way to the top. Soon the survey party returns and state they should send an extermination party there as they confirmed the presence of a blood viper inside. The elves insist that they should absolutely have that meat as the survival of their clan depends on it. Ya explains that the blood viper meat is extremely valuable. Eating it overflows your body with vitality and it improves the husband-wife relations, and it is also said to bless you with children, so basically, the effects of Viagra. Realizing why they want it, Hiraku then tries to calm the girls and wants them to discuss it with the whole village. The winter comes. Hiraku visits Ru as she doesn't feel well. As she explains her symptoms, Senna wonders if she is craving sour food lately. Ru explains that she doesn't have an appetite but is still able to eat tomatoes and fruits. Senna then explains that someone in their village said the same thing. Hiraku then wonders what happened to that person and Senna explains they congratulated them on the baby, realizing that Ru is pregnant. Ru's pregnancy is going well, however due to it, she can't transform. As the maids insist on waking up before Hiraku, he starts to wake up a bit late, so that the maids can get some sleep as well. As the village grew quite a bit, they are splitting breakfast into 3 groups. Hiraku is part of the first group and as he eats, Gran Maria informs him that 3 killer rabbits tried to infiltrate the farm, however Kuro and the other wolves eliminated them. They note that it's good that the rabbits keep trying to do that as they get constant food supply. Hiraku notes that the angels are always composed and proper, but when they are off duty, they enter lazy mode and rely on others to prepare them food and wash their clothes. After he is done eating, Hiraku starts working. He sees some garden pests and eliminates them with the almighty tool. Hiraku takes a break for lunch, which is something that isn't common there and it took people some time to get used to. The elves are usually not even having breakfast and at first were nervous if it was alright to eat in the morning, wondering if they have enough food supplies. The beastmen were also not used to eating every day and initially believed they are treated nicely because they will be thrown out soon. After lunch, Hiraku continues to work. While having more people usually helps him with his job, when there is a need to till new fields or plant new crops, it is still a job that Hiraku handles only by himself as he is using the almighty tool. Hiraku plants some flowers, wanting to bring some colors to the village. Outside of farm work, Hiraku uses the almighty tool to create various things to help out the villagers and is thankful to God for the tool. Hiraku also sometimes joins the military training. He doesn't think the village needs it, but the maids insist on it. Seeing them using the training as exercise to stay fit, he decides to train a bit, but is quite bad with any weapon, except the almighty tool. As it gets dark, Hiraku's workday is over and he heads inside for dinner. The maids present him with a new dish, stating they are confident, about 20% confident, that it tastes good. Hiraku tells them to only present dishes where they are at least 50% confident it's good. However, the maid refuses as they don't want to waste food. Frorum gives Hiraku a letter from Yuri in which he reads that she wants to eat apples again. Frorum then explains that Yuri liked the clothes that Zabuton made and is wondering if Zabuton can make more for her. After resting a bit after dinner, Hiraku takes a bath and is usually the only one there, but in reality he was in the women's bath temporarily. After the bath, Hiraku usually feels unease as the elves start stalking him. Even in his room, he still feels they watch him and tricks them into revealing themselves. After that, he thanks God again for the good life he was given and falls asleep. The dwarves are usually always working making alcohol. Hiraku expected them to be always drunk, but they take their job quite seriously and don't drink while working. They also ask him to increase the grape production by 3 times and Hiraku agrees. Senna comes running and informs Hiraku that there is a strange man. Hiraku goes to check him and sees the man bowing to the wooden god statues Hiraku had made. Hiraku then wonders how he got in without Zabuton or the angels seeing him. Rue recognizes that he is the progenitor, Vargreif, who is quite happy to see her. Vargreif explains that when he heard she is pregnant, he didn't believe it, but it seems it's true. Normally they continue their bloodline with blood pacts and pregnancies are rare, but states that children are treasure and tells her to take care of it. Hiraku wonders who he is and Rue states he can think of him as her grandfather. Vargreif explains that he is 4,000 years old and the secret in living a long life is to erase his memory from time to time, except the important things like his name and clan. Vargreif apologizes for entering the village without notification and explains that he initially only intended to look around and leave, but the statue below the tree caught his attention, as it was splendid likeness of the great creator. Hiraku wonders if he met God before and Vargreif confirms that he met him when he was born and God told him to do his best even though he is born with a slightly abnormal body. Hiraku figures the abnormal body means that he is a vampire and Vargreif guesses so too. Vargreif explains that he had been trying to remember how exactly God looked. Hiraku realizes that he wants the statue and explains that he can't give it to him since it belongs to the village, but he will make him a new one. After making him a statue, Vargreif likes it. He wonders how much it would cost him, but Hiraku doesn't want to take money for something like that. Vargreif then states he will have to think what he can do for him as thanks. After leaving the village, Vargreif visits a large temple. The head priest there is happy to see him, noting it was 50 years since he last visited. Vargreif states he wants to enshrine a statue and asks what is the best spot. The priest explains it is the spot of the creator god statue which was made by the master sculptor Turuk. Vargreif then wants to move it in order to put the new statue there and the priest agrees. Seeing the statue, the priest is impressed, stating it must have been made by a famous sculptor and wonders about his name so they can honor it, but Vargreif says it would be better if they don't do that as Hiraku doesn't seem the type to appreciate stuff like that and also doesn't want to disturb his peaceful life. Vargreif states they quietly support him and tells the priest to inform the other temples and all to be respectful of the Taiju village. Vargreif sends Hiraku a magnificent piano. Hiraku doesn't want to take it as payment, but Vargreif then states it's a gift to celebrate Rue's pregnancy. Hiraku decides to put the piano in the dining hall. The 3 hall girls realize that it's a piano that can only be found in the large temples and is used for big ceremonies. They decide to play it as it's one of a lifetime opportunity. However, they end up too scared to play on it as they fear they may ruin it or break it. The 3 of them then ask Hiraku if he can get them a piano so they can practice on it. Hiraku doesn't understand why they don't want to play on the current one, but makes Michael Goran get him a practice piano. A lot of the girls end up enjoying the piano and try learning to play on it. However, Hiraku has trouble sleeping as they also play on it at night. Hiraku calls for a lunch break, however he ends up continuing to work until Rue calls him to stop and join them for lunch. He wonders if she should be moving, but she explains it's fine and that she heard she needs to exercise. All the girls are also quite kind and concerned about Rue, however she explains she is fine, but her problem is that she can't drink alcohol. The 3 killer angels make a request to Hiraku to sell off all the alcohol. Hiraku then learns that the girls decided to give up alcohol for Rue, but thinking they can't drink is driving them crazy. Because of that, the angels believe that selling the alcohol may solve the temptation problem. Hiraku believes they will end up regretting selling the alcohol as it's not something they can produce quickly again. He suggests an alternative, telling them to think of how the alcohol changes taste the longer it ages. Donovan and the other dwarfs ask Hiraku if they have done something wrong as no one wants to drink alcohol anymore. After Hiraku explains, Donovan is happy and states that they don't need to lower the production, but actually increase it. Hiraku agrees, noting that he is sure that later everyone will drink more to make up for the lost time. Ru's pregnancy is going well and the time to give birth almost comes. Everyone in the village then starts giving her various gifts. That evening, Ru feels it's time and later she gives birth during the night. In the morning, Hiraku meets his son, Alfred, and holds him. A week has passed and Hiraku recalls how everything started from him living alone to now being a father. He isn't sure if his son is half vampire, as at the moment he looks like a human. As he recalls everyone giving presents, he decides to do something to thank them for their kindness. He gathers the girls and explains he wants to start a new system. He gives them reward medals, silver coins, and states they can trade them for things they like. Tia realizes that's like money and Hiraku confirms, stating he figured that one day the village will need its own currency. Until now Hiraku has been taking all the goods and distributing them to everyone. If someone wanted something, they come and ask him, but with the increased population, handling all the transactions by himself became impossible. They wonder if they can't just continue trading goods between them, but Hiraku gives them an example where different people put different value on certain goods, which is why he wants to use currency. Since it will cause a turmoil if they suddenly switch to the currency, Hiraku plans to start by giving the coins as reward medals. Hiraku gives everyone 3 coins, however as the wolves and spiders are too many, he gives each group 30 medals. Some of the people traded them right away, while others like to just have them and not spend them. Hiraku starts getting more custom orders of furniture and toys, and feels he actually now works even more than before. Soon they have a big feast to celebrate the birth of Hiraku's son, where everyone is finally able to drink again. Ru brings a wooden hammer that Donovan had gifted her before and the dwarf bring a big barrel, stating it's a new kind of wine they made and states they need to use the wooden hammer to open the barrel. Donovan wonders how is the wine, but Ru explains that she still can't drink as she is breastfeeding the child, but she is fine watching everyone else drinking. Donovan then suggests they bottle some of it, so that they can drink it later. Hiraku likes the idea and states they can keep it until Alfred is old enough to drink and drink it with him. At the demonic kingdom, Bezel tells them that Hiraku's village had a baby. They had finally realized they can't defeat the village and wonder how to keep a good relationship with them. Glad suggests they marry someone from the kingdom to someone to the village, but the demon lord mistakes it that they want to marry Yuri and is against it. Tia, Hakurin and Frorum tell Hiraku that there are some people who want to move here as they want to escape a war. Hearing that the number is over 100, Hiraku believes they will need another village in order to take that many people. Ru then states they should do it. The girls agree, as that means more people can move in and suggests they call it the Great Tree Village too. Hiraku states it will be a lot of work, but the girls are ready to give their best. Hiraku agrees and they start thinking where to start it.